Welcome to another episode of Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass.
I feel honored and privileged, ma'am, that I have been asked to come here and share whatever little I know with you. In 1978-79, I became very unpopular by writing an article that the 21st century belongs to women.
So there was more words in the silence rather than in the spoken language.
In fact, as Allama Prabhu says, there's more meaning in silence than in words. They were like that. My teacher was a diabetic. He had hurt his toe. The toe had swollen so much he could not wear the chappals properly and walk fast. Since he wanted to walk fast, he said, forget about it. He came like that, sweating profusely. He turned towards my house, dropped the chappals outside the threshold and walked in. You can imagine what would happen to a child when he sees his favorite teacher coming like that alone. He came in, I just stood up. Time stopped, man. He walked inside, came straight to me, hugged me and started sobbing like a child. I had never seen my teacher crying any time. I was wondering what happened to my teacher. He's crying. I also had tears in my eyes. After 2-3 minutes of crying, he pushed me out, put his hand in the inside coat pocket, took out a paper. See what these idiots have done to your life. With my misty eyes, I saw it was a telegram from the board which said, result is changed from failed to 8th rank, send cumulative card for correction. I had got the 8th rank to the state. For about a month, I was a failed candidate. I still remember, ma'am, why should my teacher do that to me? Remember, ma'am, he went to my house for 3 consecutive days. I always talk to young teachers like that. Why did you go to my house? Is it mentioned in the appointment order? Your student fails, go and see in the house? Nobody says. He goes, and secondly, he came back to the school, filled up the application form as a guardian and sent 5 rupees. Remember, ma'am, 5 rupees was a fortune for a teacher that time. And not only that, when the results came, he could have sent an attendant to my house. Call this fellow. I would have gone running because my career was at stake. But my teacher was so joyous. He, with the injury on his toe, he came running on a hot road having blisters on his feet, hugged and cried. In those 5 minutes of hugging and crying, my teacher demonstrated to me what is teachership.
That changed your mind.
I decided at that time, come what may in my life, I want to be a teacher, nothing else.
Of that caliber.
That caliber. And my prayer to God is that if I can be 100th as good to my students as my teacher was to me, my life is done. And my another prayer to God is, if there is another birth for me, I should be born as a teacher and nothing else.
It's amazing. It's really amazing because many teachers feel that they've not been treated well. Okay, and this is the grouse of all the teachers. But I think, students really make teachers. But teachers also need to imbibe values into students. And today with all this online education that we have, that connect, that Gurukul kind of connect between students and teachers and the value education that the teachers provide for students during our times, I think is somewhere along the way is lost. What do you feel?
I believe that. The reason is values are not taught. Values are not lectured, they are not professed, they are demonstrated. Values are demonstrated. If I want my students to be kind, I should be kind. If I want them to be punctual, I should be punctual. If I want my student to be honest, I should be honest. Children never learn from your classrooms. Children learn from your behavior, by your style, your attitude. I always feel in life, attitude is more important than knowledge and skills. Knowledge and skills can be acquired, attitude has to be developed, and you require a role model for that. Teacher has got to be a role model. As we said, tragically what is happening is what we call distancing. We call distance education. I call it a distancing education. Distancing the teacher from the taught. And if the gap between the teacher and the taught becomes more and more, you learn from the book, which is as well available elsewhere, but you should learn from the teacher's life.
Yeah, but somehow I have always felt, I remember once when I was in the 7th standard, a small example, I was in Bishop Cotton School and I was an extremely shy person. And in fact, even at home, I mean, my parents don't even, can't even relate to me now what I was when I was in the 7th standard. But then we all evolve and come out. But this one instance that I want to tell you, Dr. Karjki, is that I was asked to get in school. What used to happen is we used to be in a kind of a hall, and then they would actually put all our names into a box, and then we had to, it's like a lucky dip. The principal would pick up a name, and that person had to come to the center of the hall and speak for 2 minutes. That's all. Just to see how confident we are. And I was praying that my name should not come, my name should not come. And lo and behold, should my name come? And I was so scared about it. I told myself, no, no, no. But then I had to go and speak. There were about 5 of us. So I got 2 minutes. So then everyone, as my name was called, they all clapped. And that the children always do. And that made me even scared. I went and stood, held the mic in my hand, and looked straight forward. And you know, the 2 minutes looks like 2 hours when you stand on the stage and everyone's eyes is on you. I didn't open my mouth. I just held that mic. They looked at me, I looked at them, they looked at me, and I looked at them. And 2 minutes passed by. And the bell rang, but I didn't utter a word. And then I came back. Sure enough, I failed. But they gave me 2 marks. And what was the 2 marks for? The presence of standing there on the stage, even if I did not speak, at least I didn't run away. I just stood on the stage, and even when people booed at me, I took it without crying. I just held on to the mic, and when they say go, you go. There was a little discipline there, so they gave me 2 marks. I failed, no doubt. And then I got into my room, I took a stick, and I beat myself. I beat myself only because I told myself, why the hell are you here in this world? You can't do anything for yourself. Nobody knew that. I cried and cried. I said, why am I like this? And then I told, from that day, whatever comes in my mind, and after all, that topic was only on Mahatma Gandhi. I could have even said father of the nation 10 times, at least I would have got at least 1 or 2 marks more. But I didn't open my mouth. So what I told myself is that I am going to speak. I'm going to speak. So what happens is something like this will change us, and that's the thing that changed me. And it was just that the small lucky dip kind of this thing, and then it pulled me out. So the same way I feel that that's what perhaps made you change. And teachers really make a lot of difference. And teachers surprisingly remember students who do very well, and they remember long after you have passed out. And in fact, they say that students remember teachers, but believe me, teachers remember students much, much, much longer. And have you had any examples of such students that you have?
So many, ma'am, so many. I have been teaching for 48 years now, and I have so many students. Any part of the world I go, people come and meet me. An interesting episode. I had a session in University of California at Berkeley. I finished my talk and came out. I saw a lady sitting there. Face appeared very familiar. She stood up and said, Namaskara, sir. When somebody says Namaskara in America, you feel happy. She came and touched my feet. Sir, you are my teacher 35 years ago, sir. I said, good. What's your name? She said, my name is Prema. Ah, yes, Prema. What are you doing now? How is your sister Suma? For a teacher, one small clue is enough. Everything floods in. I knew her sister and all that. She said, sir, I'm here. What are you doing? You come, sir. She dragged me by my hand, took me to the Department of Chemistry. I have not taught in that university, I have not studied in that university, ma'am. And there were so many teachers sitting there of different nationalities. And this lady tells them, I was telling you about my teacher, because of whom I'm here, he is my teacher. I felt like crying. Then she asked me innocently, sir, remember, sir, when I was in the college, one day we were coming down the staircase, I was standing there. He looked at me and said, why, Prema, looking dull? I said, sir, I can't understand second law of thermodynamics, sir. You took me to your room, gave me some common examples and explained to me for about half an hour. I loved chemistry, sir. I did my MSc chemistry. Then I got PhD scholarship in Purdue. I did my PhD from Purdue University. Now I'm married to a person in San Francisco. So I'm working here as a lecturer. Then innocently she asked me, you remember that day, sir? I said, I don't remember. Because I go up and down the staircase 10 times a day. And every time I meet a child there, I told her, Prema, I am grateful to you for one thing. If the half an hour thermodynamics that I taught you can bring you to this university, I can spend my life for a person. Is it not right? Sometimes teachers drown themselves under the illusion that they are teaching children, but actually students are teaching them more. Every day. In the class, ma'am, when you are teaching them, you can see their eyebrows knotted in the center, looking out of the window, looking at the watch. They are telling you this is not the way to teach. We are not following you. We are boring. And when they are sitting and listening to you like this, they are telling you this is the way to teach. So therefore, they are teaching us how to teach every day. If you are a sensitive teacher, you can learn the art of teaching from the children's eyes.
So is that why you started this program of ACT?
Yes, ma'am. The reason is that, madam, I became a chemistry teacher. I taught abroad, guided students for research, and then taught in the college. As divine design would have it, I became the principal of a school. I had never taught children in the school. I had never taught small children at all in my life. But divine design, I always call divine design. I never call anything accident. It is divine design. I went there. 3 years I had a job of big with small children, trying to build that in school and all that.
The Jain school?
Jain, madam. I was the first principal and director of the Jain International School. I lived with only snakes and scorpions in the first few years. And then I thought, I have taught at all levels. But in the coming days, you may get a good doctor and a good engineer, but difficult to get a good teacher.
Yes.
I thought there is no point in crying that good teachers are not available. We should produce teachers. I had seen in England what is called finishing school for teachers. I wanted to bring that model here. I discussed with my mentor, my guide, Dr. Raja Ramana. He was a great atomic physicist, outstanding human being. I went and told him, sir, I want to start. How do you start, Karjagi? Who will pay for you? How will you sustain yourself? Let me try, sir. Ma'am, I should tell you, for 2 years I slogged, virtually slogged. I went from village to village, stood on my feet for 8 hours a day, 26 days in a month, villages, towns, everywhere, do teacher training program in schools and schools and schools. 2 years. After 2 years, people began to feel there is a necessity for teacher training, an organized teacher training program. And today, ma'am, we have this ACT, Academy for Creative Teaching, where I can't take 50% of the requests that come to me now. I'm so gratified. Ramana used to tell me, Karjagi, you don't realize you created a culture of teacher training in India. I was happy about it. Teachers have to be sharpened, ma'am. If you do your education course today and join as a teacher, whole world is changing so fast. If you don't change yourself, you become redundant. You become obsolete. I have to update myself. You know very well, madam, you have been such a professional and acclaimed doctor. Everything changes every year. New technology comes, new methods come. Teachers should also learn. We started doing that. I feel gratified that through this institute, we have trained about 2.5 lakh teachers, madam, now. 2.5 lakh teachers.
Excellent. And are they continuing this kind of teaching?
They are all teachers. They are practicing teachers and they are doing so well. In fact, just the other day, every day I keep receiving letters and mails saying that, sir, I attended your class on that day and the example you gave was so beautiful to me. I'm using it. But it creates problem also to me in some way. Somebody telephones at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sir, I am starting this particular topic. How do I introduce the topic in the class today, sir? I said, why 4 o'clock? Sir, you will not be available after 7 o'clock, sir. You will be busy. Therefore, I want to disturb you at 4 o'clock. Worth it, no problem.
No, but I think, it sort of gives you a kind of an elixir. That it's not only about a culture, Dr. Karjagi. I think it is a religion. I feel it's a revolution that if you have good teachers, you don't need anything else, because if you can sow the seeds of good values in education, the children don't get spoiled. Yes. Up to a point, if you really get, it's like a plant. Yes. And if you have the plant and you put a stick to it and tie the stick to the plant, that plant will grow into a tree straight. It's only when you don't have the stick, then the plant goes in all directions. So the stick is what I would look as a teacher, and the teacher has to have values. A teacher cannot give values and be bad themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
So practice what you preach.
Yes, yes.
And I feel that if the society was also, respectful of teachers, because they don't look at them as somebody who very important. Like for an IT professional, there is so much of importance given to them, the teachers pay parity, the respect for them, and also society needs to sort of look at it, because many times what happens is the teacher says, now I'm giving homework, so the parents have to look after that, and then the parents say, why am I sending them to school, let the teacher look after it. In between, the child is very confused. So if we give enough of value to that particular position of a teacher, I think that's the thing that's going to make a difference. What do you feel, Dr. Karchke?
As I told you earlier, values are demonstrated. The yawning gap between the professional earning money elsewhere and a teacher earning somewhere, there is always so much of a difference. We ignored teaching profession for a long time. We only said nice things on September 5th and forgot it on 6th September. We said that teacher is the pillar of the nation, but pillar is not standing on the firm foundation. The reason is that the whole world is running behind money. And any profession which does not earn so much money is in the public eye not so much respected. Unfortunately, it happened. So therefore, teaching did not attract the best talent for some time. Yeah. But slowly and slowly they are realizing now the teachers are got to be paid better, that to be treated better. Slowly, some schools, at least in city, they are developing so well, they are giving good salary to teachers and they are giving semblance of self-confidence and all that. But still it has to go a long way. And you said it rightly, we lost the track somewhere in the late 70s and the early 80s when the IT started booming. They saw an engineering graduate getting 25,000 rupees salary at that time. It was a big money at that time. And teacher was getting 5,000 rupees. Very sad. MSc, master degree holder can get only 5,000, but their BE student can get about 25,000 rupees. And suddenly after 2 years, the boy or girl went to England and went to America and saw the green currency and took the parents there. The parents started thinking of the ninth heaven now. Oh my God, my son can go do this. So therefore they told other children, you also do engineering, that's better. Whether he wanted to be engineer or not, he became an engineer. And those days, 80s, anybody who knew the keyboard properly was an expert in computer. They started getting huge amount of money. And all talent started going towards that, because I have a theory, ma'am, a very interesting theory. Is my thesis actually. At least true in the Indian context. Every human era of human existence throws up a role model. And all people living during that time start emulating that model. I'll give an example. Who was the leaders of society in the Vedic times, madam? Rishis. Rishis were the leaders, and they didn't live in cities, they lived in the forest on the bank of the river, but the kings and princes went to sit at their feet and learn from them. When Vishwamitra came to Dasharatha, the mighty king, I said, send your both the sons, he could not say no also. That was the power of a Rishi. And they did not belong to any community. They belonged to every community, finally became sannyasi. Sannyas ashrama was the end of a normal process of life. So that was the power, wisdom. Wisdom was respected. Come little further in history, ma'am, come to the Mahabharata times. Who are the heroes of Mahabharata? Bhishma, Drona, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, Arjuna, Bhima, all warriors. Vedavyasa was also there at that time. Even a tribal boy like Ekalavya in the forest wanted to beat Arjuna, did not want to be like Vedavyasa. That means the icon had shifted from wisdom to bravery. Why go so far behind in history? Before independence, who were our role models? Gandhi, Patel, Nehru, Azad, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, they were the role models. And India, everybody sang Vande Mataram. We had Prabhat Peri, you would have seen it when as a child, we used to walk on the road. 15th August, we used to walk Prabhat Peri. Everybody sang Vande Mataram with such fervor. And when Gandhi gave a call to the nation, sacrifice for the country, millions sacrificed and went. That was the freedom fighters. Sacrificing for country was an icon at that time. Unfortunately, I don't say unfortunately, these are changing tides. After independence, a rich man has become a role model. So everybody wants to be, as I told you, people during that era want to emulate that role model. So everybody wants to be rich. They want to be rich as early as possible, as quickly as possible, and secondly, at any cost. Third is dangerous. If you want to earn money at any cost, it is normally at the cost of values. Absolutely. You want to earn at any cost, somehow or the other, you should earn money. It is always other only, not somehow, wrong ways only. and you start earning money. I always say this greed for money is sickness. I don't blame the sickness. The greed will not remain for a long time. Insecurity brings greedy. We say politicians are greedy, they earn so much money. Cricketers earn so much money. Cinema stars are greedy about money. Why? Because insecure. If I lose the election, I may not have any power. If my health goes off, I can't play cricket, I lose money. If my cinema flops, I will not get offers. The moment you become insecure, you become greedy. But my feeling, ma'am, thank God, no icon has remained permanent. They are changing. Yes. And now I can see the writing on the wall. In 25 years from now, the icon would change. Why I am passionate about teaching, you ask me, teacher training, is that 25 years from now, the young boys and girls will ask, our country is supposed to be very famous for culture, very famous for values. What are they, sir? Somebody should be there to tell them. I call teachers as the custodians of society. You must hold culture, nurture them, develop them, and pass it on to the next generation when they are ready to receive it.
Excellent.
It has to be done.
But the fact is that do teachers take their role responsibly?
Very good question, ma'am. Not many, I would say, tragically. If all of them do it, world will be beautiful. My conviction is that education is as good as the quality of the teacher. If the teacher does not realize the gravity of his importance, you don't understand the importance. I tell them, teaching is the only profession in the world which constantly has a dialogue with the future. Constantly dialogue with the future. The boy sitting in your class could become the President of India, could be the Prime Minister, could be the General, could be the Governor, it could be anything. He is sitting in the class like an innocent boy today. But if you put that passion and train him with the feeling that he would become the Prime Minister, he would become the President, he would become a great scientist, a great saint could be. If I don't treat him like that, he will not grow up to become big. That's Swami Vivekananda used to say, you continue to call your son an idiot, he proves you right. He becomes an idiot. Tell him you are capable of doing good things. Put that positive attitude in the mind of these children, they will grow up. I wish the teachers understand the importance of their being a teacher. They would say, I always say, you have got a ready clay in your hand. You can make it a god or a demon. It's in your hand. Put right values in it, you will grow into a great human being.
But don't you actually feel that if a teacher can look at the students like their own children, for example, and say that, look, if my child was sitting there, would I have called that child an idiot? No. So if my child is an idiot, I will still try to cover up and say, so why can't you tell the child who's not performing well? The talent of a teacher is when you can take such a child and then mold that child to come up, then the real value of the teacher is seen. Not if you take 90%, 95% scoring children and then say that you got 95%, then where is the value of the teacher? So in your academy, are you actually going to take teachers to be able to take average and below average students and to see that they come up, and what is the mantra you will give in that kind of a category?
My first philosophy is very simple, ma'am. No teacher should ever say the child is dull. I have not seen a single dull child in my life, ma'am. I have not seen a single child. Just because he can't do mathematics, he can't be dull. My sister's classmate was teaching in Bombay, a maths teacher. She would always come and say, "Oh, horrible to teach those fellows, they are not interested." And especially when I go to teach mathematics, the last bench fellows will doze off, and looking at them, I forget my mathematics. Idiots, they can't pass 10th standard. She was always complaining. And evening after the class, they will take cricket bat and go to Shivaji Park in the neighboring place and play cricket. They were all excellent cricket players. She was talking about one of the boys who was sleeping in the last classroom, perhaps, was Sachin Tendulkar. She talked about him. I love this boy. And she told me, this fellow cannot pass 10th standard, mathematics will fail. I told her, don't say that. He doesn't understand your mathematics. And you don't understand his mathematics. What is his mathematics? She asked me. He is hardly 5 feet 4 inches. He carries a 4-inch wide bat, stands there, and somebody is throwing a ball at 150 kilometers per hour only to beat him. The ball comes there in a fraction of a second. Within that time, he should judge his hand movement, find out how the ball is moving, stretch his left leg forward, bring his bat. Where should I take it? The left side or the right side, over or ground? Where are the fielders standing? All he should decide in a fraction of a second. And when ball cross the boundary, billion people will stand up and shout, lovely shot. I told her, instead of him, if you were to be there at the crease, you will end up in an orthopedic hospital. You will not be able to play. Is it not mathematics that you understand so much in a fraction of a second? And he is the youngest Bharat Ratna we have today. Then how do you say he is dull? I always tell teachers, because they get less marks, they are not dull. And you know, madam, the job of teacher is, they have not understood the definition of education. The word education comes from the word educare in Latin. Educare means to bring out. It is the teacher's job to find out what the child is good at. Not finding out what is good. You should discover what is good in him. Oh yeah, he is a good speaker, you know. He may not be a good mathematician, but excellent speaker. Develop it. He is a good kabaddi player. Push him. If he is a good singer, make him. I always say, what does Lata Mangeshkar know? Singing. Yes. More than enough. One singing made her Bharat Ratna. One singing talent. Bismillah Khan, Shehnai. Take one field and absolutely get obsessed about it and become a great person. I tell the teachers, don't look for marks card. Marks card does not indicate the intelligence of a person. Look at the eyes of the child. What does he love? What does she love? Push it. Make her do realize. Ultimately, madam, education is all about realizing the potentials.
Point here also, Dr. Gururaj, is that in your class, where you are looking at talent, do you spend enough of time counseling the teachers to be able to understand the student? Because I don't think teachers spend enough time to understand the students. Sometimes, students are rebellious, and sometimes students, have a distaste for a particular teacher just because the teacher doesn't understand them. So first and foremost, you need to gain the confidence of the student, and so that itself is a challenge, and that may take a long time. Many people, at least teachers, lose interest on the way. How do you actually bring that kind of patience in them? Because I feel there are no bad students, there are only bad teachers. And that is what I have in my mind, and I always tell everybody, you give me any student, they don't like a subject is because they don't understand the subject. Absolutely. If they understand the subject, they will love the subject.
In fact, there is a very famous statement in education, madam. You like the subject only if you like a teacher. If you don't like the teacher, you don't like what she is teaching. You just don't like it because you don't like her. So therefore, I tell the teachers, first be likable. First go and smile in the class first. Some people are so grumpy and their life is in difficulty. I always say, your problem is with you. If you can't smile, you will have BP by the time you reach 40. Smile, at least for your health you smile. And talk to children affectionately. Not stand a barrier between you. Go and mix with them, talk to them affectionately. I tell you, they open up like flowers. They'll share everything with you. And if you are a favorite teacher, madam, children come and share many things with the teacher which they don't share with their parents. Yes. That you are such a wonderful repository of their faith. Therefore, you should do it. First, I tell them, love the students. Love the students as if they are your own children.
Absolutely.
And secondly, people blame me that you are blackmailing us. I said, blackmail or whitemail, I do that. I tell them, if you like the student in your class as your own child, your children will be safe in the house.
They'll be blessed actually.
They'll be blessed. So many parents bless you. I ask them a question. When you send your child to some other school, don't you pray God that my child should get a good teacher? My child should be guided properly. If he becomes a drug addict, he loses path, I feel so guilty. Somebody did not guide him at that time. Similarly, child sitting in your class, the parents also have prayed that they get a good teacher. Are you that good teacher? Are you that good teacher? Do you think you are good enough? And I must demonstrate goodness, ma'am. As I always say, one small instance I should mention. There is a hotel called Windsor Manor here. It's a very expensive hotel. My classmate who did research with me in US and all that, he is in Russia. He had come for some meeting and he was staying there. I went to have a tea with him in the evening. We finished tea and came out. There's a big oval shaped room, big oval shaped table, and about 13, 14 children were sitting there and having party. And if they are having party for 14 people in Minister Math, they must be rich people only. At the head of the table, I saw a young girl, 13, 14-year-old, very sweet-natured girl. There was a cake in front of her, and I could make out it was a birthday. But what shocked me was everybody was smoking. All 13, 14, 12-year-old were smoking. The problem with me is the teacher within me doesn't die. He's always active. I went there and looked at the girl and said, is it your birthday today? She smiled sweetly and said, yes, uncle. Many happy returns of the day. May God bless you. She said, thank you, uncle. Cigarette was in the right hand. She lifted a cookie box in the left hand and said, pick up one, sir. I took one chocolate and said, thank you. That's the work is over. But I didn't stop at that. As the teacher role came in now, I said, child, does your mother know that you smoke? I asked her. Suddenly her face hardened. She looked at me, why are you worried, old man? Uncle became old man. Why are you worried, old man? Then I said, if my daughter were to smoke at this age, I should be really worried. Not good, child. And then went. I was going to the door and this girl came running behind me. She had kept the cigarette on the ashtray and came running behind me. She must be coming from a good family. She asked me very innocently, uncle, I'm sorry, I should not have said it, but is smoking bad? I said, definitely bad. I tell you, Bangalore, you are struggling hard to get good air, and why do you want to pump in smoke into your lungs? Don't do that. And I can tell you, chemistry-wise, it is not good for you. Immediately she asked me, then why Krishnamurthy sir smokes? Sir, who is Krishnamurthy? Our favorite maths teacher. I know him. Next day I called him to my office and asked him, Krishnamurthy, which subject do you teach? Sir, you know, sir, I teach mathematics. I said, no. You stop teaching mathematics now. No, sir, I am teaching mathematics. No, you are teaching children how to smoke. Why, sir? Yesterday I saw your students. They like you so much. They like you as a maths teacher. Therefore, they are liking your smoking also. You are teaching less mathematics now and more of smoking. Idiot, you spoiling your life, but why are you spoiling the life of these children? You know, madam, what happened? He touched my feet and said, sir, today onwards, I'll reduce smoking, sir. I can't stop immediately. At least I'll not smoke in presence of children. And now, after 1 month, I'll stop smoking. He stopped smoking. I said, you become a little better teacher. If you want to tell children to have good habits, you must have good habits first.
Absolutely.
I tell them, children have such strong sense, ma'am. I call sixth sense. They can make out whether the teacher is good or bad.
Absolutely.
And I give an example. Supposing a teacher is totally drunk and swinging on the roadside in the evening, next day comes and gives a beautiful class in the morning. You know what children say? You should have seen him yesterday evening. That hangover will affect their learning also. So therefore, I always tell them, if you want to be a good teacher, first be a good human being. A good human being can be a good teacher. Otherwise, you become only informer, informing subject. But you are not a transforming teacher. You can transform only when you transform yourself first.
Which is excellent, because this is what I think teachers must know. So they actually have a very responsible position in society. They form a bridge between the citizens of our country and the youth of our country. And if this bridge breaks somewhere, the future of our nation is in peril. And this is something which is what everyone has to take seriously, and society is responsible for it. So I think it is a 360-degree repair that I want to see in society. I think the students must respect the teacher, the parents must respect the teacher, must make sure that whatever homework is given, that the teachers make sure that the students do the homework, and also there is a parental role to say that the teachers look after the students for a certain period, but there is also a teacher in every parent. So the teacher in every parent must also continue that work where the teacher leaves, so that the teacher can continue when the parent leaves. So there is a parent in every teacher and a teacher in every parent. So those roles have to be reversed at any time. And when we start looking at it, and there is a kind of seamless transfer, I find that the child who comes to school will be able to relate to the parent better when she is in school, and to relate to the teacher better when she is at home. I find that in families where the parents are all working and the child is left alone, the child gets into a kind of a distraction, and sometimes that could be dangerous. And what has happened is with this nuclear families, and then a whole lot of distractions that is there on televisions, mobiles, this Netflix and all these other kind of Hotstars, etc. I think you can't blame the child. And you can't blame the family as well, because you need to have two incomes to the family at this point of time. So I think a time comes in everyone's life that you have to look at priorities, like what you talked about your sister, and it keeps ringing in my ear that one has to take a back step and one has to take a forward step, and it can't be that both go parallelly and say that both have to achieve.
In life, to get something, we have to lose something, man. It's a pakka bargaining. If you have to get something, you have to lose something. Similarly, if you want your children to be happy in future, I must spare time for the children. Parents cannot say, I don't have time for you. You can't say. The reason is that there is a very famous statement which says, before I was married, I had 6 theories about bringing up children. Now I have 6 children but no theory. No theory will work. I had to demonstrate that. And secondly, don't tell your son to go on moon. You should go first and invite him. I must do what I am telling my son. If I'm not strong in whatever I believe, child can see me through. The child is sitting with me all through. Watch me. And he will say, this is what he says, but he never does. Don't you think small things we do at home, madam? Father comes home, tell the child, don't tell lies, don't tell lies. Okay? Child says, okay. And father is watching the television and the phone rings, mobile phone. He doesn't want to take it. He tells his wife, tell him I'm not here. And poor lady says that. And child watches it. And if it happens 3-4 times, the child will believe that telling a lie on the phone is okay.
Yeah, and we think it is very light.
Very small.
It is not light.
It is not small, madam. You are telling them that you can tell lies on the phone. And the fellow goes to college and misses the classes. Father telephones and says, where are you, son? The boy says, I'm in the special class, I'll call you later. He's actually in the movie. Who told the child to tell lies? We only taught him.
Dr. Gururaj, after this extensive talk that we've had, what would your message be to our viewers today?
Very simple, ma'am. I asked them a question. Whose life is this? Own or rented? Is own. You should be careful. If it's my own house, I decorate it nicely, clean the garbage, throw it out, keep the house clean and neat. If my life, I should throw the garbage out. All negative thoughts out of the window. Never be negative. Never be negative. I'll tell them, learn from the honeybee. Honeybee in the forest flies miles together to go in search of flower. It never disturbs the flower, never takes the color of the flower, no fragrance. It takes one drop of the nectar there and makes it for itself and for others. But it never goes in search of a dead, rotten animal there. Similarly, I had to make my life beautiful. I should go in search of positive things, good things, make my life beautiful and melodious by picking up good things, not picking negative thoughts at all. Be positive. Life is beautiful.
Dr. Gururaj, we've had a wonderful session with a lot of insight into teachers and students, and I'm sure my viewers have had an in-depth knowledge of what you've given. And I, for one, have learnt a lot from you. And I think, this is what values that people have to take forward. And I'm sure our viewers will be that much more richer with the education that they have actually got today. And Masterclass is all about that. Being ordinary, but having that extraordinary in you. And Dr. Gururaj has been able to convey to you what is that extra that you can imbibe in you, and that is an attitude and that is values. 360-degree values. Practice what you preach and always strive to be excellent. Do not try to do something or preach something to somebody what you cannot do. And if you cannot do, be truthful enough to say that I cannot do, let's do it together. There's no harm in that. And that's Masterclass for you. Today, Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass. Thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, and it has been an absolute pleasure to be a guest at Kamini Rao's Masterclass, a must-watch show which I'm sure many people are looking forward to.